Hey boys and girls, today we're going to discuss chapters 14 and 15. A lot happened in chapters 14 and 15. 14 is called Giant Sewer Rats, Detours, Toilets, Tattoos, Rock Stars, and Celebrities. So what could possibly happen with sewer rats, detours, having to go a different direction, toilets, tattoos, that's a strange one, rock stars, and celebrities. So, we know that when we last read chapter 13 that Tony, Mo, and Anna are going to go to the MTV studio and be interviewed by Luca, the MTV reporter. So they have the idea that they should probably try to call Mr. G again, Mr. Gore, and of course Luca says let's do it after we do the interview because we've got to get the interview done. And so it says Luca answered Luca answered as she bustled around the set that was buzzing with production. Now buzzing is an onomatopoeia because that's putting sound to words, okay? So buzz, and when it says that it was buzzing, it really wasn't buzzing, okay, the noise. It was just a lot of people running around and a lot of noise, okay, on the stage production where they're going to do the interview at MTV. So they interview Mr. D, Harley Davidson first, Luca does, and as they're interviewing the kids, the three kids are kind of off to the side a little bit, and Tony whispers to Mo and says, "Are you ready to see some fireworks?" Now he doesn't literally mean fireworks that go off in the sky, okay? What he means is, are you ready for me to do something big again? Okay, I'm going to do something. And that's foreshadowing, letting us know he's up to something. And we want to know, we're in suspense of, what is he going to do this time, okay? And Mo's like, what are you talking about? As dread fills his eyes. He knows it is not going to be good if Tony's going to do something, okay? And he says, let's just say that my interview will be interesting. So we want to know what is going to be interesting about his interview. For you, maybe, whispered Mo, but probably not for anyone else. So Mo knows it's not going to be good. I guarantee that this will be the day to remember in MTV history. So Tony's like, I guarantee this is going to be great. Everyone's going to remember this, okay? And Mo says, and I guarantee that I'm never going anywhere with you again. So he's like, I know that I'm not going to want to be with you after all of this happens. It's not going to be good. And so the interview with Mr. Davidson is done, and Luca looked to the side of the set and winked at Tony. And now I'd like to introduce the worldwide MTV audience to a surprise guest that is full of, well, surprises. It's my pleasure to intro, and she gets cut off, okay? And at that moment, the lights went out. So the lights on the studio go out, bathing the set in total darkness. Now, bathing there, we're using that as an idiom because it doesn't really mean that it's taking a bath. It means it's just taking over, okay? Music blared out of massive speakers. Tony rushed onto the set, hopped on top of an empty chair, and stood on it, facing the cameras, okay? So he runs into the set, instead of walking like everyone else would do. He jumps up on the chair, and he's facing the cameras. The instrumental introduction blared, so the music is blaring for about 20 seconds. Then when the vocals, when the guy and the music that's playing starts to sing, then there becomes colored laser lights flashing everywhere and a fog machine's pumping fog. Tony leaped off the chair, landed on his feet, and began aggressively playing an imaginary air guitar. So he's like rocking out, but it's not a real guitar, okay? A spotlight focuses on him as he bounced around the set, miming the words to the rock song. So he's lip singing and playing the guitar, okay? He didn't come in just like everyone else would come in for an interview, okay? He's got to make a grand entrance. And so then poor Luca is supposed to be interviewing him and doesn't know that this is going to take place. She's dumbfounded. She's shocked. She doesn't know what to do. Mr. Davison's head's bopping up and down. He's acting like he's playing an air guitar. Anna and Mo join in, and they're rocking out also and act like they're playing the air guitar. The members of the TV production crew, the camera guy, all of those people join in on stage and act like they're rocking out, okay? So there's this big chaos happening on the set when she's supposed to be doing an interview with Tony. So it's an impromptu rock fest, okay? So that means like it wasn't planned. Impromptu means it's not planned, you haven't practiced it. And then after a couple minutes, Tony jumped back up onto the chair, faced the cameras, and lip sung, the final lyrics. And the song ends, okay? And the fog clears and the music stops, and everyone else clears the set, okay? And they break into laughter. And Tony like pumps his fist like, yeah, rocking out, okay? And takes a bow. And all the rockers around him do too, okay? And so it says, the set immediately became as quiet as a mausoleum. Now, that is a simile saying how quiet it was. A mausoleum is at a cemetery. It's a it's a concrete building where instead of people being buried in the ground, they get put in a vault and a wall, okay? So that's what a mausoleum is. So of course it's going to be really quiet in a mausoleum. And Luca ends up introducing Tony again, and that he's known for being the kid in the bear costume, okay? And so then the interview's over. She doesn't really get to talk to him because of the entrance that he's made. Instead of just sitting down like a normal person would to get interviewed, he decided, hey, I have to make this really grand entrance. I have to really like shock people, okay? And so Tony's like, I can't believe we were just on MTV. Anna's like, yeah, it's so cool. And Luca asked, how did you pull all that off? How did you get that all organized in such a short amount of time? And he tells her that it just sort of all kind of fell into place. Kind of like everything else for him just happened, supposedly, okay? Somebody calls Luca and says they want to talk to Tony. Now we're in suspense. We want to know who wanted to talk to Tony, okay? And we find out it's David Letterman, and he's like, hey, I just saw you on MTV being supposedly interviewed, and you're supposed to be here right now being interviewed by me. What's going on? And so they talk and they banter back and forth, make wisecracks with one another and everything like that, okay? And David Letterman then says that Mr. Gore's there, okay? And I heard from Mr. Gore that the three of you were missing. The cops have combed the city looking for you. Now, they have literally not taken a comb and, like, raked it across New York City by any means. That's an idiom. It just means that they've really looked for them. They've looked everywhere, okay? So David Letterman says, hey, I'm going to send a limo over for you so that you guys can get here. And he proceeds to tell them that, hey, we were going to go with Limp Bizkit and get tattoos. Now, Tony's not of age to get a tattoo, but he thought he could go with Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit is a music group, okay? They were popular at one time. I don't know if they still are. I don't think they are. But anyway, that's what they're called. And David Letterman proceeds to say, hey, they're going to be on my show tonight, so you can hang out with them then. And Mr. Gore talks to Tony for a while, and he talks about how he's going to kill him, but he really isn't. And he says, yeah, right, Dave. I'm sure I've driven Mr. G crazy once again. Now, he hasn't driven him, okay? Once again, this is a idiom, just saying that I've made him crazy, okay? And then he said he's sort of like a granny when it comes to worrying. Anyway, I can talk to him. So that is a simile saying he's like a grandma when he worries, because we know grandmas worry about about their grandkids, okay? And then he proceeds to tell that he's really sorry, that it isn't Anna and Mo's fault, so don't get mad at them. And Mr. G's like, I never thought it was. And then he gets off the phone with Mr. G, and he talks to David Letterman again, and he proceeds to tell David Letterman that Mr. G, yeah, but his heart is like a marshmallow, so he probably won't kill me. So he's saying he might look like this big tough guy, but really he's just a softie, okay? So that's a simile, comparing him to a marshmallow. So Dave talks to Luca again and asks her to come and be on the show. And of course she says yes. And Luca says, since I'm going to come over, I'll just bring the 3 kids with me, okay? Don't worry about sending your limousine. I'll make sure they get there. And then Mr. Davidson says to Luca, no, we'll take you to the late show on our motorcycles. We want to make sure you get there, okay? So now we're on chapter 15. This is a really long chapter. This is the late show, okay? So it's starting out with David Letterman. They're doing his late night show, okay? Now the kids have not shown up yet. He's introducing who's going to be on the show and everything, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Van Diesel, and Bruce Willis are going to be there. And then he's like, boy, do I have one for you tonight. He says that they're going to have the kid in the bear suit. He introduces him, and guess what? No Tony. He is not there when David Letterman introduces him. And so David Letterman while they're recording, talks to his producer about it. Producer, of course, doesn't know where Tony is. And then he's asking his orchestra director. On the Late Show, they have this band set up over there, and David always talks to the orchestra director every night, and they kind of make jokes back and forth with one another, okay? And he's like, he doesn't know where he is either. And then he says, I wonder if Madonna has something to do with it, because when David Letterman was on the phone with Tony when he was over at Luca's studio at MTV, he told him that Tony told David Letterman that he was going to go with Madonna, and Madonna was going to take them to Toys R Us and go shopping. And David's like, no, you got to be here on my show. You can't do that. So he makes a joke about that. And then all of a sudden, who shows up but Tony? And Tony's on Harley Davidson motorcycle with Mr. D. Okay? And they drive down the aisles until they get to the stage. And David Letterman's like, this is worse than the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, the Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a movie way before my time, okay? It was pretty popular, though. And Tony unwraps his arms from Mr. D, slides off the motorcycle, and hops up on stage, okay? And so Dave and Tony start talking, and they start joking around, and so Tony's dream finally comes true. This is the climax of the story where Tony reaches his goal, okay, and he's on the David Letterman show, okay? So we usually think of the climax as being at the middle of the story. The climax is not. It's the turning point in our story where the things start to go right for our main character, and in this instance, Tony, what's gone right for him is he's finally on the David Letterman show, okay? He ends up introducing Anna and Mo, and they join him, and then they kind of tease. David Letterman says that they had to be brave to be TV's best friend, and that David Letterman's happy to meet him, and all that other stuff. And then Tony ends up introducing Mr. D, okay, Mr. Davidson, the guy that brought him over, and David Letterman finds out that he's a teacher, that he's in a band, and he ends up introducing them to come back some other time to play on the stage. And then and there are 2 more passengers on the motorcycles, and one of them was Raj, okay, and he introduces Raj to David Letterman. And then there was also this girl called Divya. Now, if you remember, Mo runs into the girl on the subway, and he likes the way she looks, and he ends up kind of like, ooh, I like her type thing. And he ends up, when they're leaving to go to the MTV studio, and he ends up getting her card for the restaurant that she works at, okay? So they end up bringing her to the David Letterman show on the back of the motorcycle also, and so they all kind of get introduced to David Letterman. And then, of course, Luca's there, and he introduces Luca to David Letterman. And then finally, a couple minutes later, the motorcycles were gone. Anna, Mo, Raj, Divya, Luca, and Mr. Davidson and all the other bikers are sitting in the audience. And he says, finally I can say, welcome to the late show, okay? They banter back and forth a little bit, and he's like, Tony finally realized, hey, where's Mr. G at? And Tony's like, I think he's backstage in the dressing room with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Van Diesel, and Bruce Willis, okay? And Limp Bizkit, okay? And the lead singer of Limp Bizkit, okay? Now he says, yeah, I believe it or not, I miss him. Yeah, I'm not sure the feeling is reciprocal with him. Now, reciprocal means the same. I don't know if he feels the same as you do, okay? So they banter back and forth and make jokes. Mr. G comes on the stage. They talk to Mr. G and Tony for a while, and then David Letterman kind of talks like, yeah, trouble tends to follow you, and they kind of just keep on joking back and forth. And then he asks, why do you drive your parents so crazy, your teachers, your principal? Why do you drive all these people so crazy? And he says, Tony says, because you're the best thing that ever happened to TV, Dave. And I just had to meet you. I had to be on your show no matter what. So we know that Tony's dream was to be on the David Letterman show, and he was willing to do no matter what to get on that show. No matter what it took, he was going to do it. So he had determination, and he persevered, and he met his goal, just like the rest of us should do, okay? And so he's like, oh, you touched my heart, kid. Now I know that I have at least one fan in the world, okay? And then Tony has a surprise for David Letterman, okay? And this surprise is that they're going to get tattoos. David Letterman is going to get a tattoo with Tony on stage that night while the show is being recorded. And it's going to be aired that night. Now, David Letterman's like, hey, kid, you can't get a tattoo on my show. You got to have your parents' permission. And Tony's like, sorry, there's a fly. Tony's like, I've got that covered. My parents sent a fax giving me permission. And they're going to get the letters TLS tattooed on them, The Late Show. Okay, so T stands for the, L stands for late, and the S stands for show. So they're going to get tattoos together. And so is Mr. Gore. And the lead singer from Limp Bizkit is going to give them the tattoo. Before he was the lead singer of Limp Bizkit and became famous, he was a tattoo artist, okay? So, that chapter ends with, and Tony, Mr. Gore, and Mr. Letterman walked into late show history. Now, once again, this is an idiom. They didn't walk, okay? It just means that they made history on the show. And we want to know, did they get a tattoo? Did they not get a tattoo? So we're kind of in suspense. Did Tony really get a tattoo on The Late Show? Okay. So next time we read, we're going to read the epilogue, the very last portion of our book. Okay. Hope you're enjoying it.